Hey everybody, I just wanted to give you a heads up that the audio on the episodes 6 and 7 is a little rough. I procrastinated a little too much and we lost Rob's audio files because I waited too long and he purged them. So that is on me. That is my fault. They are certainly listenable, but they are not quite the audio quality that I usually put into these things. Although you may not even be able to tell because I am very new at this. So I just wanted to give you that heads up before we get underway here. And hopefully you enjoy the show.
Captain's Log Supplemental. Today was the final of our ship's Parisi Squares tournament. It was the engineering squad, the Quantum Crushers, versus the team fielded by the civilians on board, USS Resilience AC. It started as an exciting contest between evenly matched teams. However, after Ensign Lop of the Crushers took an ion mallet to the ribs from the Resilience AC team captain, things devolved quickly. An argument as to the legality of the hit began amongst those in attendance and escalated into an all-out brawl between the team's respective supporters. It rapidly spilled over the teams themselves and hit a crescendo when crewman Galmok launched himself off the court ramp into a flying elbow drop onto the unsuspecting head of the ship's barber. The security team arrived shortly thereafter and broke up the fracas. The injury reports from sickbay are already coming in and include 12 broken limbs, 5 concussions, a plethora of bruises and lacerations, and 1 detached groin plate. Poor Mr. Grom won't be tending bar for a couple of weeks while he recovers from that one.
Welcome to this week's episode of Captain's Log Supplemental. This week I am joined by our regulars, Chris Emmerich.
Howdy, folks.
And Matthew Stanford.
Hello there.
And I myself am Rob Beach. So this week's episode was chronologically episode 7, the Andorian incident. This one kicks off on a Vulcan monastary called Pajem. We've seen the Andorians, I think, for the first time in the series chronologically, correct?
That's correct, yeah.
Yeah, and I think it's supposed to be like a surprise that it's Andorians, right? Because I remember like the camera lingering during the cold open or whatever.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I've only ever seen them as like Starfleet members. I didn't realize that there was like an antagonistic relationship with Vulcans in the past. So the Andorians enter, and one ominously removes the glove from his hand in the most, hey, I'm a Nazi in a World War II movie way possible. And cue Faith of the Heart. So Faith of the Heart. The crux of this episode hinges on a discovery that Archer makes with a discrepancy in Vulcan star charts. He starts questioning T'Pol and finds out that this planet is some Vulcan spiritual retreat. A sanctuary is what they refer to it as.
T'Pol says, don't go there. And naturally, Archer's like, nah, I'm going there.
Yeah, exactly. So we see I guess what is going to become a standard sort of scene in this series. Phlox is grabbing a piece of celery off of T'Pol's plate while they're sharing a meal together. And once again, he's kind of used as like a goofy voice of reason character a lot in the series, I'm noticing.
He gets expanded a bit later on, but yeah, that's kind of his...
Yeah, he's like a tension breaker, yeah.
Yeah, okay. So T'Pol goes through an explanation of proper protocol with Trip and Archer for meeting with the Vulcan monks once it's decided, like, we're definitely going now.
Which, like, I always found Vulcan, like, ritualism to be silly. I don't know, like, it's very funny to me. It's very funny, these, like, the whoever wrote the Vulcans way back when was like, tee-hee-hee, these super logical people, but they're going to have these crazy religious ceremonies. It's going to be hilarious. And then it just keeps getting harped on over and over.
Very conflicting ways of doing things, it seems like.
Yeah, they don't really jive, which, like, again, like, that makes sense if it's just like a one-off kind of joke. But, like, it's their defining feature, and holy Christ, does it get it gets obnoxious sometimes.
Sure.
Yeah, it's interesting because they're portrayed as like the beacons of reason and logic, right?
Mm-hmm.
But some of the ceremonies, and we're going to come back to this in the deep dive in a minute here, but some of those ceremonies do seem kind of irrational.
Well, and I think part of the Vulcans is conflict, right? You have their struggle is them constantly warring with their own emotions and trying to suppress them. So, I mean, I can kind of see how that's kind of a theme for them. So I think maybe that makes it work a little bit better than it otherwise might. But yeah.
So yeah, T'Pol goes through the rules, most of which require remaining silent, which there is zero possibility that either Trip or Archer would be able to observe that.
0% chance.
Yeah. The monastery has this like super creepy, huge face sculpture on the wall when they first walk in, which comes back later on in the episode, which was very well done, I will say.
Actually, that was pretty good from like a cinematography standpoint. It was a nice Chekhov's gun.
Yeah.
There. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Chekhov's huge face wall.
So T'Pol notices that a statuette has been tipped over and that there are a very small number of members of the order in the atrium, meaning one singular member. And it happens to be an agitated elder.
Very agitated. He was just running wild.
Yeah. Archer spots an armed Andorian hiding behind a standing wall. I can't remember what those walls are called, like a folding wall.
Mm-hmm.
Room divider.
The screen.
Yeah, a screen. That's what I was looking for. So he dramatically busts through the screen and springs
his
the
buddy
Andorian trap.
Can we rewind for 1 second? Can we just take a moment to appreciate that the Vulcan super monastery has like a shiny rock souvenir gift shop thing?
Oh my god.
Like it was almost like here's a little scoop and a little baggie. You get one scoop of rocks for your baggie on your way out. Like it was so bad.
Like
was he supposed to take it
so
though,
weird.
or was it just like, here, touch my rock?
No, he was supposed to take it. You get one souvenir prayer stone or whatever the fuck.
Yeah.
Like they're like, we are not leaving without our souvenir rock. And the agitated elder's like, well, I guess I have to. What choice do I have? I have to get them their rock.
I mean, he's right. He is due a rock. It's true.
I guess. So I was kind of laughing because it was either Trip or Archer. I don't remember which one of them. They compare it to like the Blarney Stone.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And like it just. Oh god, like I know that there's probably some like real symbolism behind that, but I've always gotten the feeling that it's kind of like the American. I also brought up in this episode the American largest ball of string. Like it's just I don't know, kitschy maybe.
What's a Blarney Stone?
Dude, you're Irish and you don't even know what the Blarney Stone is?
I'm not Irish. I'm American. Jesus.
Yeah, it's a stone that is a part of a very old castle that like either touching or kissing, it's supposed to bring you good luck. But like the trick is it's sort of hanging out over a ledge. So to kiss it, like somebody has to hold you while you are like let out over the gap to actually kiss this stone.
I see. That sounds very dangerous.
Not entirely safe. So turns out the Andorians are here holding the monks essentially captive, not for the first time, as it turns out, because they think that there's some sort of observation system built into the monastery that the Vulcans are hiding from them. T'Pol lets Archer and Trip know that Andorians historically, they're very militaristic, they're very suspicious of others, and they think that the Vulcans are planning some sort of invasion of their home world. They find out that Archer's actions have once again endangered those around him by demanding that they show up at this very inopportune time. I'm willing to give Archer a pass on this one.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, it is his thing.
Yes, it is definitely his thing, but he didn't do this in complete disregard of everything. Like he was willing to at least follow T'Pol's rules and procedures this time around, right?
Yeah, that's fair.
He wasn't leaving without that goddamn rock, though.
Until shenanigans were about, and then it's Captain Doer.
Shenanigans were indeed about.
Oh my god, so, Captain Archer loves his ass some shenanigans.
He does. So Reed notices the Andorian ship on their scanners. How they didn't see it before they actually like sent people down to the surface kind of escapes me, but that's neither here nor there at this point. And decides that he wants to investigate it more. We cut back to Archer getting a pretty rough interrogation.
Which, like, I don't understand why Archer doesn't just like, hey, hi, we're from Earth. Yes, we have a Vulcan because of this weird, like, suit. Like, just explain it. Like, it's not a hard explanation. And the Andorians know the Vulcans are assholes. Like, they would be like, oh, yeah, they are assholes. Hey, why don't you help us out here? Like, I don't know. I don't know why the Andorians are so douchey.
He sort of tries to, right? But like he doesn't give a very good explanation. He's just being
he's being cagey for no reason.
He has to be very stoic.
Yeah, exactly. And then like he makes the mistake of bringing up the Vulcan High Council assigning T'Pol to the expedition, which they don't like. So at that point, we hear Archer's communicator go off. The Andorians answer the hail from Enterprise and just start making blanket threats, like hostage takers do. The one question I had about this scene is, can you guys think of a good reason why they start smashing all of the communicators?
Not even a little bit. I actually didn't understand why the Andorians gave a shit about them anyways. Like, they're not only the communicators, but like the Andorians are technologically superior to the Enterprise in pretty much every way. Mm-hmm. So why did they just go take the ship? Like, what's the problem?
That's a good point.
Also, I'd like to point out the very rapey Andorian in this scene.
Oh, God. Yeah, he comes back later.
Just super gross.
God, fucking early 2000s TV. Although it's not a lot better today. What am I saying?
He starts making like creepy comments about Vulcan mating rituals. Like, oh, okay, dude. Okay. So
it doesn't even make sense because it's already been established the Andorians hate the Vulcans. It's just
right. Yeah, it was unnecessary. It was an unnecessary escalation.
What's really funny is I mean, I obviously the point of it is to make you view them as villains, right?
Sure.
But with how they're treated, like that's not how the Andorians are portrayed for the rest of the entire series.
Literally, not even like towards the end of this episode.
Yeah, right.
Right. And like, I don't have a huge amount of exposure to them. Like, I remember, I think in the original series, there was an officer who was Andorian at one point.
Mm-hmm.
But like the most recent example I can think of is from Strange New Worlds.
Sure.
Where you learn that.
Too.
Oh, okay. I don't think I've seen that yet. But you find out that not only are they psychically sensitive, they're very empathetic to emotions of others around them.
That's just the one.
That was that one guy.
He's part of like a subspecies.
Yeah.
Okay.
Of
he's
Andorian.
like a subterranean Andorian or whatever.
Yeah, they're all like blind and like telepathically sensitive.
Yes. Most Andorians are not all that telepathic, I don't think.
Okay. I did not realize that.
Yes, he was an exception to his race.
Okay.
Although, can I just say, and this might be vaguely racist of me, but their antenna make me very uncomfortable. I guess it's because
you and Trip both. He was very racist about it too.
Yeah, he was. I actually have a note in here that's like some light racism from Trip, sure. Which I couldn't remember. I couldn't remember the exact line.
They returned that by calling them
Pigskins.
Pigskins. Yes. Oh, that does not go away. That sticks around. I guess my problem with the antenna in this series, because I didn't have this much trouble in Strange New Worlds or when they showed up in Discovery, I think it's because the costuming, because they weren't like CGI, they didn't feel natural. They just kind of moved randomly.
Oh, speaking of the costumes, can we talk about how that in that scene, their blue makeup was visibly and obviously coming off?
Hey man, it's been a long shooting day, man.
Like,
Dude, I didn't realize that.
Like around their
Shran's-
necks and shit, yeah.
Yeah, even like in Shran's like whole face, like there's just like splotchy, like obviously human skin underneath.
Shran, is that guy's name?
Yes, Commander Shran.
He's one of the best characters throughout this show because he comes
Yeah.
back.
He comes back quite a
Oh,
bit.
does he?
You don't actually hear his name in this, but that's his name. Is Commander Shran.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Yeah, he's the Andorian that helps found the Federation with Archer. Yeah.
Wow.
Oh,
By the
cool.
way, speaking of returning characters, the actor who plays him plays like a million other characters in Star Trek.
Sure.
Huh.
And he always has that like badass leather jacket like the entire time. He is a snappy dresser, Shran.
He's like the Han Solo of freaking Star Trek, I guess.
Wow. No, he's more like that military major or colonel from Stargate, but like the Kurt Russell movie version.
Okay.
Where he's
Sure.
like
I
he's
get
like
that comparison.
competent, vaguely quippy, but also like tired of people
Macho.
being shitty around him. Like he's like, we've got a
right.
job to do, god damn it. Like, yeah.
Right. So the Andorians start threatening to decapitate some Vulcans to see if they can get Archer to talk, which doesn't really go over, I think, how they planned it. We find out that humans smell offensive to Vulcans.
It was brought up earlier in the episode, by the way, and confirmed at that point.
Yeah. Yeah, like T'Pol say she had some sort of like nasal desensitizer.
Yeah. Yeah, she's like a nasal numbing agent. Which has not been said ever in any other Star Trek. I'm pretty sure.
There's also the there's also the level of like, that line bothered me. It bothered me for a couple of reasons. One, like something can smell bad and you become nose blind to it because your brain's like, well, that's just what it smells like in here. I'm going to ignore that so I can smell things that actually matter.
That is a built-in feature of your nose.
Sure. So you're telling me that Vulcans don't have that ability, which is like, okay, that's fine. Seems like a weird oversight, but okay. But also like Vulcans are like famously stoic in the face of like physical adversity. Like when Spock is in pain and he's like, I'll just channel the I don't know, the Shamkaratka or whatever the fuck Vulcan phrase, and I will be one with my pain and it will not affect me and I'll just put it off until tomorrow. Like you can't not smell some stuff, kinda? Like, what the fuck?
Yeah. Yeah, they take some liberties to try to lay down some themes, and it's a little messy sometimes, I'd say.
It kind of makes me wonder if Michael ever had a problem when she first encountered other humans for the first time.
Kind of makes me wonder if that's why everyone picked on Michael at school.
Well, no, she did, but then she made a speech about it where she almost cried the whole time. That's why they picked on her.
God damn, I can't wait till we get to Star Trek speeches. Oh my fucking God, that show.
So we learn that there is a broken transmitter hidden in the catacombs beneath the sanctuary. Trip volunteers to go fix it. Yeah, the dramatic secret passage.
Trip's like, I never met a Buster Radio I couldn't fix. What are you talking about? Yes, I'm sure Trip is familiar with the 200-year-old Vulcan technology.
Yeah, they lay on the aw shucks earnestness with him a little too much sometimes.
Yeah, I liked, again, going back to Trip being able to fix just about anything. Hoshi even points out that she's receiving some very... it was funny that they called it difficult to receive EM transmission, because like it came through pretty clear, even though Reed was complaining about the quality of the communication there.
Well, maybe it was digital once it came through, right? Like it's not an analog signal, it's digital, so if she gets it. Like it isn't...
Yeah, maybe they've got some sort of scripting that kind of cleans up the audio for them.
There you go. Yeah.
I like how Trip's like, I never met a radio I couldn't fix, and then what he does is he just blows on it like an NES cartridge and it starts fucking working.
No, he's got like, the thing had this big circle that just went into a hole, and that's what he was doing. He was just putting the circle back into the hole that it belonged to.
Like, we'll never know how. We don't know how to make this work. Hit the switch that says on. I don't know what the fucking...
Speaking of putting things in the hole, Archer and T'Pol have some nighttime cuddles.
Yeah, so awkward blanket sharing scene, engage, I guess. It was really weird.
So that's kind of one of the weird themes, I think, from the first season is like they kind of just kind of this like weird sexual tension with Archer and T'Pol, which thankfully they abandon later on. But
yeah, it gets worse before they abandon it, though. So buckle up.
Huh.
Like, it gets a lot worse. Yeah,
so we jump from blanket sharing to this week's ethical dilemma, this time about a violent response to the Andorians. It's interesting to me that the Vulcans say that they completely abhor violence in all senses here, but like one of the things we find out happens not too far in the distant future, chronologically speaking, is when the Vulcans first meet the Klingons. They don't back down. They engage them immediately as like a show of force because they interpret that is going to be the only meaningful communication they can make with the Klingons on first touch. Like I don't know, it's interesting that was what they went with here.
Is it just that particular like group of monks that are supposed to be acting that way? Like, is that espoused as a view of Vulcans in this?
I don't. Yeah. I thought it was just these monks because Vulcans don't abhor violence. Vulcans are not non-violent.
Yeah, I mean,
like even T'Pol was. Sorry, Chris.
No, I was just going to say that. I mean, even later in the episode, they referenced like the Vulcan mating ritual of fighting to the death over a mate. So I mean.
Yeah, but like even T'Pol was on board with them just like allowing this to go. I mean, maybe it was just because she was being culturally sensitive to these people. I don't know. It was interesting though. So at this point, Trip manages to contact the Enterprise again, gets Reed to stay put for now, avoiding any early confrontations that might end poorly for them. I do appreciate that they're all now fully on board with using the transporter to get like boots on the ground.
Right. Except that one dude, he's like, I don't want it.
Right.
Yeah.
That would be the me.
Trip's earlier spelunking proved effective because it turns out that crazy sculpture, the giant face, is really like the other side of the lights at the end of a passageway that Trip saw in the catacombs.
Why did Archer have to get the ever-living shit kicked out of him to confirm that?
No, that too. But like, can we talk about the fact that like Trip's like, I saw this complex pattern of lights. Let's see if we can identify it. And it was 3 dots in a triangle.
Right.
Like,
right.
Dude. Oh man, that was great. Like, did no one bring like a pencil or anything?
Or just describe it. Yeah, it was 2 dots like next to each other and then another dot in the middle down below. Like,
go down the passage and look out the fucking hole.
Right. Like, how hard is it to say? It looked like a face.
And yeah, Archer is so fucking bad at his entire job as he goes in to try to make this distraction. And the Andorians are like, the fuck with this guy?
Dude, I love that he just immediately took a kidney punch.
Yeah, straight away.
Archer's peeing blood for 2 weeks after this episode.
Yeah. So he's got this little
I'm sure Phlox has got some like Blomeclian kidney worms that'll fix him right up. It'll be fine.
Yeah. So he's got this little figurine with him, and their big plan was get him into the room and have him like chuck it through either the eyes or the mouth of the sculpture, just to make sure that it is what they think that it is.
So I had a question about that. Do the monks not know?
I mean, they have to, right?
Like, couldn't they just be like, hey, we saw like some holes. Is that the big face up in the main room? And for the monk to be like, yes. Okay, done. Like, what the fuck are we doing here? The monks, because the monks know about the catacombs. They know what's in there. They knew where the transmitter was. Like,
right.
And on top of that, these are Vulcans. So like, it's not like they're going to get confused by a complex layout. I'm pretty sure at some point in all of Star Trek, and it, the specific instances escaping me, but like, I'm pretty sure there was a Vulcan at some point who's like you get the idea that they have some kind of like perfect dead reckoning, even in complex structures that they've never been in before. Like they just like can find their way back out, no problem and shit. So like, it was so weird. So weird.
Yeah. Yeah, I didn't understand that at all. I mean, because they clearly know that there's, the show at the end of the episode here down below. Like they had to have known what else was down there.
That we'll get to when we get there, because I have questions about that as well.
Okay. So hesitant security crew wind up, beaming down through use of the transporter.
It looked like Reed was just pulling pistols out of like a JanSport bag that he brought with him.
Right. So again, we see that Andorian captor getting a little rapey with T'Pol, and Archer gets lectured about turning the monastery into a war zone, which was interesting because one of the young monks decides to accompany Archer on his little combat mission here. Archer ignores the monk's warnings and enters into the reliquary that we were told had very ancient and meaningful Vulcan relics, which include all of the pots that are then exploded with phasers.
Sure, because that's what Archer does. He did stuff. He's a doer.
He's a doer. Yeah, he's a doer. Can we just all take a moment to acknowledge that the blue Andorian phasers are like the coolest shit that's ever.
Yeah,
they're fucking cool as hell.
I was just cracking up because this entire scene was like watching somebody do a let's play of a Zelda game. There are so many broken pots in this room by the end of this little combat.
Shut up, there's no chickens around.
Yeah, fucking Archer's just yahing like all through. But then he tore down that tapestry because that's where they hid their secret spy base, behind some like tapestries.
It was blocking off this huge, like well-defined steel door. It was massive. It was like a Fallout vault.
It was not
like
locked.
10-foot long door or 10-foot diameter door.
Not locked.
Nope.
They had that tapestry up, Chris.
Listen, it was in the reliquary. No one goes to the reliquary.
No one goes there. You're right. What am I thinking?
Yeah. So they find this giant secret Vulcan observation post.
Gigantic.
Why did nobody see them?
So
I don't understand.
Here's my question. So like I'm willing to suspend my understanding of every physics phenomenon and be like, okay, maybe it's shielded from scans or whatever. Okay, fine. Maybe they're beaming in and out so they don't actually have to, although why do they need a door? But whatever. Like, okay, maybe this was just the cargo door from when they built the thing or whatever. Okay, fine. All of that's fine. Did none of the monks know? Because I don't know if you're aware of it, Vulcans are not allowed to lie.
Except they lie all the time in this show.
They do.
No, they're not allowed to lie. They were told that. We were told that like few episodes ago.
So like the monks have to know, because at this point, one of them, like the one that accompanied them downstairs, tries to like hold Archer hostage.
Then it gets cold cocked.
Like immediately, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
It would have been better. I was half expecting, because it had been a while since I've seen this episode, I was half expecting him to be like, oh, what is this doing? What? Oh, no.
Yeah. So Archer orders T'Pol to take a reading of the chamber, which this sort of harkens back to an earlier conversation. This is the blanket conversation, right? Like, Archer confirming with T'Pol that she's on his side, and her saying like, I have never disobeyed your orders. This is kind of, I feel like the culmination of that whole discussion. And I think it's also like T'Pol is obviously pretty pissed at the whole situation. Like I know I would be, because I would feel very betrayed by my people if we had been told that this was, some religious sanctuary. And it's like, oh, by the way, we decided to hide, like, I mean, it's clearly not necessarily a war machine down here, but what could amount to it in the right situation.
Yeah, we're not like reading the manual to this room, but the implication is that it is indeed a spy base for spying on the Andorians as they suspected.
Sure.
Right, exactly. And the episode ends with the Andorian leader saying that they are in Archer's debt.
Yeah, that's Shran, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he comes back later, like that line, because he's like later like, I hate being in debt to people. Fuck you, so I'm gonna pay this back. He shows up a couple times. He's pretty fucking cool. I like Shran. Yeah. He might be my favorite character out of this show.
He's definitely my favorite secondary character. Phlox is awesome.
Right, so that I do like Phlox. That'll wrap up this week's recap. We will be back in a few minutes with the deep dive. Welcome back, everybody, to this week's deep dive. I wanted to dive into the portrayal of religion in Star Trek.
Oh, so it was something nice and light. Okay.
Yeah, super light. It's like I did a little bit of digging on the subject before, bringing this up on a podcast, and we're not going to get into anything I don't think controversial. It's just been interesting, like, learning about the religions of the other cultures in Star Trek, but also how they portray God, or Earth, and the human religions later on in Star Trek. Because, like,
if we're talking about Enterprise, it's definitely very American centric.
That is true.
All of the Star Treks are very American centric.
Yeah, probably. Yeah.
It's not like Cisco went back to Europe or anything.
Play cricket or
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But hey, Picard had a French last name and he spoke with an English accent.
He went to a French vineyard and fought his brother in some grapes and stuff.
That's right. So yeah, I guess this was an interesting episode because I've never really thought about the Vulcan religion a whole lot. Like, it's always just sort of been tangential to, I guess, a couple of the plot points in certain episodes, but I didn't realize that it was more meaningful to them in a larger sense.
I don't even know. This is one of those things where, like, this is going to seem like a tangent, but it gets wrapped back around, I promise. So one of the problems when you play D&D a lot is that there's always inevitably someone who's like, I'm going to play an atheist, right? And it's like, how do you do that when the gods, are there? They do shit. You can see them doing it.
I don't believe in you.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, well, okay. And if this show gets any viewership, there's going to be someone who's like, well, you can still be atheist. No, stop. You can't. No. When a god's hand descends from the heaven and crushes an enemy after some guy's like, please, you can't be an atheist at that point. So it's weird to me when we discuss the Vulcan religion because we have things in these shows that definitively prove the existence of Vulcan afterlives and stuff. Like their consciousness living on beyond their body and things.
Living on as well.
Yeah, yes. We go to Sovacor at some point, or we're on the boat to Sovacor or whatever. Uh-huh. So it becomes is that religion at that point, or is it just scientific understanding?
It's interesting because it doesn't really require any faith because it's very clearly true.
Right.
Well, let's look at this from the standpoint of, Greek myths and things, right? Those were religion at the time because they did not understand them. But now we view them as, fables, stories to explain something, a natural occurrence or something they didn't understand. So I think they're hand in hand, really. It is the discovery of what is actually happening.
So I get that explanation, but I feel like I have to push back because, well, two things. One, the Greeks did know that most of that shit was made up. They were just telling fun stories. But even ignoring that fact, when you talk about spiritualism and stuff, older religious traditions where it is an explanation of natural phenomena that earlier people didn't really understand. Fine, but we don't get that sense because what you're describing is we made up this story, we then find out the truth, and it's not what the story is.
Which is another storyline in multiple episodes of Star Trek, by the way.
I guess. But like in this case, the Vulcans are like, we believe this thing. And then turns out that was fucking 100% correct. Yeah. It happens to the Bajorans too, because Cisco goes and joins the Hourglass people. Like,
so that's the weird thing to me about all of this is that it's not like any existing religions today where a lot of what we take would be on faith. Like in this universe, Vulcans know that they have at least some vague representation of a soul with their Katra, and like they can not only like store it in containers, they can transfer it to other living beings. Like there was the whole plot point of one of the Star Trek movies was Spock being inside a bones. Like,
I was thinking of that Strange New Worlds episodes. Like this sounds an awful lot like hijinks.
Yeah,
that was a good one. I like that.
That was a good one. That was a great episode.
But yes, exactly. So it's interesting to me that like, and so that is the discussion. Like, is that religion at that point? Is there religion? Like, I guess, can there be religion? Especially when we know that there exist basically omnipotent beings. Like, so there are gods. Is there a religion at that point?
I was to say, I think religion is just a set of beliefs. Whether the beliefs are correct or not, I don't think matters in calling it a religion.
No, but that's my question. Like, does religion require faith in something that you cannot prove to be real?
I don't think so.
I mean, we only have the one example, but like, I don't think our planet expresses any religion that doesn't fit into that criteria.
Yeah, and I guess the other thing that was interesting to me when I started thinking about it is they have a lot of religions that are tied to not even really the culture they came from. They're really like assigned to individual species almost. Like I don't think that was there ever an example of like a human Katra, for instance, or is that like purely a Vulcan thing?
Well, we don't ever get that in depth of an explanation of those things when they do happen. So
that's a good question. Like, I guess, like, are the religions that we see in Star Trek,
right?
Yeah, man, it's a racist ass religion. So, do the humans not have one then?
So that was something else that I tried to look up. What I found, so the old Roddenberry stuff is very much so a we don't want to touch religion with a 10-foot pole kind of deal.
Sure. And I think even in the newer episodes, they don't talk about like real world religions like at all.
Right. Like it was so hands off that in one of the episodes where they go back into the 1930s, there was an example I was looking up where they're like talking with a religious congregation who doesn't even bring up religion while they're in the scene that they're in. Like, it's that level of dedication. The only time that seems to not be the case is in several of the early movies. Like, clearly there are religious overtones there. Like the whole, like, what does God need with a starship? That Kirk also mentions that Scotty doesn't believe in gods, but I think the same episode says, like, man has no need for gods. We find one quite sufficient. So, like, there's clearly something still there. And I think one of the other examples I looked up was there was an Indian actress. Well, I don't know if she was an Indian actress necessarily, but she played a Lieutenant Radha who had a bindi. So I don't know. There's clearly people who still believe in those old religious values and those old religious systems. But one of the things that kind of gets stated again and again is that they've taken on almost like a mythos. Very interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think it's more.
Go ahead.
Sorry. Go ahead, Chris.
No, I just think I think you brought up a good point in that it is the reason it is the way it is in Star Trek is because it is a TV show, and they cannot go into Christianity is a lie, or these are all stupid, and they can't espouse an opinion on those things because of the hate they will get for it.
Which is interesting because they still end up incidentally doing that anyways, because if you're going to be like, Like, oh, well, we're not going to say whether or not Christianity is a valid opinion in the year 24 or whatever, 25, whatever. Okay, but also the Bajoran religion is clearly correct. And the Klingon religion is clearly, like, valid. So are you saying that the Christians are wrong? Or are you saying that their religion is also valid? You know? And I don't know. It bugs me. It bugs me because it is I understand why they don't get into real world religions. I do understand that, careful, kind of tiptoeing.
Line.
Yeah. And I don't think that's invalid and not because I'm afraid of offending Christians, but because like, I don't think bringing religion into it is ever going to be
adds
useful.
any value.
Yeah, exactly. So, but by the same token, if you're going to say these other, like, there's a bit of otherism that is kind of rubs me in an inherently like, ooh, is this some like unconscious racism when we assume that every foreign people that we meet are going to have some kind of religion that is so mind-bogglingly different that we have to like make it seem like extreme and weird, even though at the end of the day, like, religion is religion. You know, there's some powerful things that are in charge of everything. That's where we all came from. Okay, let's go have lunch. Like, that's what a religion is, right? But now we've got to be like, well, the Vulcans are these like crazy religious people that are super ritualistic. And it's like, because they're weird and alien. Whoa. Also, their ears are pointy. Like, it's just, I don't know. It strikes me as an unnecessary type of otherism.
I think the only major time that religion is put under questioning is there is a strong trope in a whole bunch of different Star Trek series. And this made me think of Stargate a lot, of the whole false god plot point. Where like people show up and then, you know,
they
realize,
that's what I was referencing
hey.
earlier. Yeah, it's a computer or another alien race or, you know, some natural phenomenon that they don't understand. Or,
that Lower Decks episode where what's his face was the god, so he's like espousing swollenness and stuff. Yeah. Oh shit, that was fucking funny.
Yeah, that was a particularly good point. I didn't even think about it. I found a website called Ex Asterisk Scientia, and they've got like a whole bunch of like Star Trek lore bits on it. So shout out to you guys. That was a really excellent point on. There really are a lot of episodes. I didn't really think about it until I started going through all the examples that they gave.
Yep.
So I don't know. I have a lot of trouble. Well, I don't have a lot of trouble. I understand the point of using religion as a plot point or as an observation of mankind in a scientific or science fiction, like literary sense, you know, but it also sometimes feels like kind of an easy cop out. And I think Star Trek falls into that kind of rut a lot with religion. Because it's like, oh, well, we don't have to have any kind of rationality here because it's their religious beliefs. There's no rationality there. But then, like, they bite themselves, they shoot themselves in the foot because there's like, well, it's religion. They're allowed to be weird because there's no rationality there. But also their religion is real. Fuck you. Like, Jesus.
Yeah, it seems like it's typically used as just a convenient plot point.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. All right, it's decided Star Trek sucks at addressing religion. We've decided it.
So
you heard it here
all.
first. All right, we gotta take another break. We'll be right back. All right, welcome back. So I am in charge of Potpourri this week, which is what I have affectionately named this third segment. It's, you know, so when I do it, it's Potpourri. When Chris does it, he's got that long, complex pun, but for me, it's Potpourri. This week we are going to be talking about Kitchen Daddy, so buckle up. So you two have heard me talk about Kitchen Daddy before. Now, I call him Kitchen Daddy because he is a very good-looking gentleman who wears tight shirts and teaches you how to cook in your kitchen. His name is Adam Ragusea. I accidentally discovered him via the YouTube algorithm about 2 months ago. And somehow I have managed to accidentally fall in love with this man. So you have to hear me talk about him for a few minutes. Now, this is a Star Trek podcast, so fortunately, this will be tangentially Star Trek related, because I was watching one of his videos, and he said this joke. If I were in some kind of alternate universe, I might say that this is the better way to do it. And then I would sound just like this. It would be me with a goatee. I'm like, well, actually, if you try hard enough, you can get them to not be cracked. And that isn't the right way to do it, but it's fine enough for everybody else. Long live the Empire. And that moment was like, did he just say long live the Empire? Because that is a mirror universe joke. A joke that you do not hear except in 3 very specific Star Trek episodes. Do you know which ones?
All of them from Discovery?
Yeah, so Discovery does it a few times in their arc. Okay. Enterprise does it, and so does the original series.
Oh, do we wind up in Mirror Universe with Enterprise?
Yes, but in a fun way. I actually like how Enterprise does it better than everybody else.
Okay.
Enterprise
that might be the only thing you say that about Enterprise for.
I don't hate Mirror Universe, but it's just kind of.
I do. I absolutely hate
Mirror Universe.
Oh, I don't hate Mirror Universe because I think that it is fun, and I understand that writers need time to express fun ideas. What I don't like is when people from our universe interact with Mirror Universe, and it's stupid.
Yes.
Like that.
So you like Mirror Universe in the way that we like holodeck episodes.
Yes, exactly. Exactly that. And Enterprise does it exactly like that because none of the Enterprise crew actually goes to the Mirror Universe. That's not how that works. It's funny because when we get to the episode where it's Mirror Universe, for about 35 seconds into the cold open, you're going to be like, what the fuck is going on? And then it's going to make sense.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So
consider me intrigued.
Yeah. It's not till season 2, maybe even 3. It doesn't come out for a bit yet. Anyways, so Kitchen Daddy. So he's making this. He made this joke, and I'm like, oh, Kitchen Daddy watches Star Trek. Okay. So I've watched all of his videos at this point. They're good for keeping on in the background while I'm working because he teaches you how to cook, and he is excellent at teaching accessible cooking skills. But at one point he was talking to his wife on a Q&A session, and his wife's like, one of the viewers wants to know what your favorite TV show is. And he goes, well, aside from Next Generation, of course, it was, and then I forget what his answer was. Because then I was like, okay. And then at one point he was doing an advertisement for a Bluetooth speaker or something. And in the little advertisement, he just happened to have a podcast on. And the podcast was a Star Trek rewatch podcast. Clearly inferior to ours because I'm required by law to say that. But they've been around for a little bit, so we'll see. So that was when I discovered that Adam Ragusea on his SoundCloud, which he has one of those too, has made Star Trek related music, which I showed you two. It's a thing.
That's generous.
I'm not going to play any clips from it because, as it turns out, that is official music for that podcast. He kind of works for them. So here
interesting.
Yes. Okay. So here I have fallen in love with my internet man crush, Adam Ragusea. He went to Penn State. He graduated the year I got there, so he's 3 years older than us. Well, yeah, here's a fun trivia for the listeners. Rob and I went to Penn State together. We graduated in 2008. That's where we met. And so I was like, oh, that's interesting. I forgot where I was going with that.
Obligatory we are.
Oh God, fuck you.
By the way, I also went to Penn State, just the satellite campus.
Yeah.
I didn't know that. Which campus did you go to?
Abington.
You say that like I'm supposed to know, man. Fucking, there's 43 satellite campuses.
Yeah, they do have a lot of them. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess I get a little. I had a little cheat on it because I picked you up and dropped you off at that train station a couple times.
Woo. Now I've been to Abington. I just didn't know there was a satellite campus there. Yeah. So yeah, so he went to Penn State. He also likes to cook. His kids are about my kids' age, and as it turns out, he also works on a Star Trek podcast. So I'm pretty sure it's destiny, and I think his wife and my wife are going to have to come to terms with that. But we'll come back to that later. I just want to tell this quick story because it is not very often that my disability informs my activities. But for those of you who don't know, I am tetraplegic. Or quadriplegic is the older term for it. I have a spinal cord injury in my neck, and I'm paralyzed in most of my arms and then down. Like my legs don't work. I'm in a wheelchair, yada, yada, yada. I also like to cook and I like to bake. And my wife likes to bake as well, and she likes to make macarons. Now, I don't know how your guys' opinions are macarons are, if you have them, know what they are, etc.
Macaron.
Yes, not macaroons. They are kind of
French
different,
cookies.
But it's similar. But anyways, they're like these little French meringue sandwich cookies.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Delicious.
They
usually in very brilliant colors.
Yes. They are easy to color, but they are weirdly tricky to make in a typically French way because there's like these weirdly French steps to doing it, right? And it's like intensive and it requires a lot of very precise arm work that I am not able to do. So a lot of things in the kitchen are harder or take longer for me, but I can figure out ways to do them. However, things like that, it's like, oh man, I'm never gonna be able to make macarons, whatever. Well, it turns out that also in a typical, like, this is the proper way to do it, you don't have to do it that way. And thanks to Adam Ragusea's video on fuck your folding, you can just beat whatever you need to into egg meringue, like egg foam, and you'll be fine. It turns out I can make macarons. All I have to do is use the mixer instead of trying to do this complicated ass folding. So, like, as a kind of minor shout out to the people that help, like, make things more accessible in the world, and not just Adam Ragusea, but also people like Hank Green who are making science more accessible, and the Veritasium guy who's making like math and engineering more accessible. Like, I really do. I don't know if it's said enough. I really appreciate that stuff. It is very nice. Even if I don't need all of the various accessibility things, it is very nice to have people like that in the world who are making things more accessible, because fucking hell, this world is not accessible enough sometimes, and that can be very frustrating.
Here.
So that's what I got. That's my kitchen daddy spiel. I don't know if that can go anywhere, if you two have any input, or if that's just credits roll right there. But thank you, Kitchen Daddy. Also, he's Adam Ragusea on YouTube. Apparently there is a guy named Kitchen Daddy who is a different person. I don't know anything about that guy. I just call Adam Ragusea Kitchen Daddy. Because
you would like him to be your kitchen daddy.
He looks like he gives nice hugs.
Yeah, sure.
He's into like weight training, and he looks like it. Who
might be the most wholesome potpourri that we've had so far.
Who did you say he looked like, Chris? Because I was like, I don't know who that is. I looked him up, like, oh yeah, he does. Some kind of piano player or some shit.
Snap. Who did I say? Gosh. Josh Groban.
My mom listens to him. Yes.
Josh Groban.
Josh Groban, yeah. He does kind of look like Josh Groban. Yep. So there it is. That's our show. So this is going to be the last show that we are putting in the can before we actually start publishing things, which I plan to do in the next couple of weeks. Which means that theoretically, by the time we come back for the next episode, we might start getting feedback. So we'll see how that goes. But what is this, the 7th episode that we decided?
Yeah, I think so.
This was episode 7 of the show.
Okay. So yeah, so if you're hearing this, then next week is like the quote unquote live. So hopefully it's going well, or this might be the last episode you ever hear. So yeah. So well, yep. Thanks everybody, and hopefully we will see you next week.
Bye-bye. Thanks for listening to Captain's Log Supplemental. You can follow us on Twitter at PodCLS or send us hate mail at podcls3@gmail.com.